He didn't immediately realize what was happening. Sometimes life reveals itself first in silence, in an almost imperceptible gesture, in the moment when someone holds a photo and their gaze drifts inward. Last night, when his image was shown, something changed in the air. It wasn't just a reaction, it was a deep impact, almost impossible to hide. There are moments when someone's presence doesn't need to be in the same physical space to be felt. Memory takes on flesh. Remembrance becomes tangible. That's what happened. The simple act of showing his image stirred up emotions that were stored away, perhaps even forgotten. He has no idea of the intensity of what his existence provokes in others. The perception is clear. His presence transcends even when he isn't around. The gaze of those who saw his photo wasn't just any gaze. It was a dive. It was as if suddenly the soul was compelled to remember that it had recognized that face even before meeting it. And you need to realize how rare this is. There are faces that go unnoticed, but there are others that remain etched in memory, even in strangers. He belongs to that second group. His image doesn't fade, his presence doesn't dissolve. His mark is observable in invisible layers, touching much deeper than can be explained. When someone showed his photo, there was silence first, that heavy silence, revealing that something had struck a chord. No words were needed to understand. There was shock, surprise, recognition. It was as if the heart had seen more than the eyes, as if that photograph held a truth that no one expected to confront so suddenly. And it is at this point that everything transforms, because what seemed like just a portrait became a mirror. The people who saw the photo were not only seeing his image, they were being confronted with something about themselves. It's always like this when someone's energy transcends the ordinary. It awakens in others what was hidden. Have you noticed this? How certain presences reveal truths about us, even without saying a word. If this has happened to you, comment, "I needed to hear this." This impact is not limited to what was seen yesterday. It extends like ripples that spread when a stone touches the water. The reaction continues, even after the moment has passed. Those who saw your photo couldn't simply move on. There was a need to go back, to look again, to understand. And the more they looked, the more questions arose. Why did that presence affect them so much? Why did that face seem to carry untold stories, unspoken pains, silent victories? It was as if the photograph contained not just an image, but a whole realm of experiences that cannot be explained in words. This doesn't happen with just anyone. It's a rare gift, noticeable only in those who bear deep marks of life. And he carries it. He doesn't know, but each invisible scar translates into expression. Every fall and every new beginning become evident in the shine of their eyes, the contours of their face, the weight of silence. And last night, when this image was revealed, no one there was prepared to handle that depth. That's why the reaction was so shocking. It was as if time stood still for a moment, and somehow it remains paused even now. Last night, the photo was shown. A simple gesture, almost trivial, but the impact was not. The moment someone holds an image can be the moment when a hidden truth is revealed, and that's what happened. It wasn't just a photograph, it was the condensation of a presence, of an energy that cannot be reduced to pixels or paper. He has no idea what he carries. He doesn't realize the strength that his gaze conveys, even in silence. People think they recognize a face, but in reality they recognize something within themselves that only awakens in the presence of certain individuals. It was exactly this perception that filled the room when his photo appeared. First, there was silence. A heavy silence, almost awkward. No one expected to feel so much from a simple image. Then there was astonishment. It was impossible to hide it. The shock was evident in the eyes of those who were looking. Why does he provoke this? Because there's an energy that comes with him. It's not visible to the naked eye, but it's perceptible to deeper senses. It's something that overflows, even against one's will. It's as if every feature of his face is an ancestral memory, a call that defies explanation. He thinks he's been forgotten in some places, but he hasn't. He believes his pain went unnoticed, but it didn't. He thinks he's just going on with his life, but in reality he leaves marks in every space he's occupied. And last night that became clear. When the photo was shown, time seemed to slow down. People couldn't look away. It was as if their hearts were being pulled out, forced to confront what they preferred to avoid. And behind the impact, there was a truth. He carries something that can never be erased. Have you ever witnessed something like this? The moment when a presence doesn't need to be physically in the room because it's already strong enough to inhabit both memory and the present simultaneously. If you have experienced this, write yes in the comments. The photo was just a trigger. What came afterward was even greater, because after the initial shock, the process of realization began. And that is always the most transformative moment. The moment when someone realizes they're not just looking outward, but inward as well. He doesn't know it, but his image is a mirror. Those who see him end up confronting themselves. Questions emerge. Why does this touch me so deeply? What do I feel when I look at this face? Why does it feel like I already know this presence, even though I don't actually know it? These questions don't arise by chance. They come up because his energy is not neutral. It's dense, filled with unspoken stories. It's as if every line on his face is written with experiences too profound to be ignored. Last night, everyone present had to deal with this weight. There was no way to escape, and there was no way to hide the reaction. It was palpable. Shock turned into silence. Silence became heavy breathing, and breathing morphed into a desire to understand. And suddenly, the atmosphere was no longer the same. The air felt denser, the mood more intense. It wasn't just a photograph, it was a portal. Those who looked at him weren't merely gazing at an image. They were being pulled into an internal journey. They were compelled to remember that there is something greater, something invisible, something that can't be explained with words. That's how certain presences operate. They don't ask for permission, they don't offer apologies, they simply impose themselves, even in silence. He is one of those, and the deepest part is that he doesn't realize it. He has no idea of the power he carries. He doesn't imagine that his mere existence can change the atmosphere of a place, even when he's not there. But yesterday, that became clear to everyone. And you need to recognize, along with me, something inevitable is about to happen in his life. Because when someone's energy starts to be noticed, even in their absence, it's a sign that a new chapter is approaching. The doors that were closed begin to creak, the memories that were hidden start to scream, and the eyes that once avoided now can no longer ignore. The shock that the photo caused wasn't about beauty, it wasn't about aesthetics, it was about presence. A presence that doesn't fit in silence, that doesn't fit in a frame. A presence that insists on being noticed even from a distance. And perhaps now you understand why this is so rare, because not just anyone carries that kind of depth. Not everyone can leave such a profound mark on others. One must have gone through pain, falls, transformations. One must have been broken and still remain standing. He has been through all of that. And that's why today his image cannot be seen without triggering something in those who look. But there's something even more intense happening behind this episode. Yesterday, when his photo was shown, it wasn't just an emotional reaction, it was a sign. Have warning that paths are opening, encounters are approaching, truths are being revealed. If you can feel that vibe, share it with someone who also needs to see what's happening. This reaction was not just surprise, it was recognition. And recognition is the first step of transformation. No one can forget what was seen yesterday, and no one will be able to look at him the same way again. What began as a silent moment continues to resonate even now, because it's not merely about memory or casual recall. When an image touches the soul, it leaves marks that cannot be erased. That's what happened when his photo was shown. The people present tried to hide it, but it was futile. The shock was in the air, palpable. Their eyes couldn't hide it, and each gaze was a reflection of something deeper, a mirror of sensations no one expected to face. He may not know it, but his presence carries invisible layers. It's not only about who he is, but about what he awakens. Those who see him don't just observe, they are compelled to feel, and feeling is always riskier than merely looking. Feeling requires courage, as it confronts hidden truths. Last night, truths began to emerge. His photograph served as a portal. Those who allowed themselves to look beyond the surface perceived something beyond the image, a depth, a calling, a gentle weight, yet irresistible. Have you ever experienced a moment like this? An instant when, unexpectedly, something external opened a door within you. If so, comment, "I've experienced this." The impact didn't just linger in the moment of revelation. It grew as hours passed, because certain presences cannot be dissolved over time. They expand, and the more you try to forget, the more you remember. Yesterday, everyone who saw his picture left carrying something new, even unintentionally. Some felt peace, others felt discomfort, but all, without exception, were affected. And this is where its strength lies. No one can remain indifferent. His mere image is enough to destabilize certainties. He thinks that life made him invisible at times, but that has never really happened. Even when he believed he was erased, he remained present in ways he couldn't imagine, and yesterday was proof of that. His presence asserted itself, even in absence. His energy was felt, even through a photograph. It's hard to explain this in words, but you can feel the vibration. The heart recognizes it before the mind accepts it, and the body responds before reason understands. This is why there was silence. This is why there was shock. This is why no one could simply laugh or change the subject. And the more they looked at the photo, the more they realized there was something stored within it, as if his entire life was imprinted in traits, marks, and lines of expression. Not just the life he lived, but also the life he will still live. Yes, because certain presences carry on their faces, not just the past, but also the future. And that future has already begun to reveal itself. Do you notice this? He doesn't yet. But the movement is already too clear to be denied. Everything that was held back, hidden, silenced, now begins to expose itself. And yesterday's reaction was just the first sign. Those who saw his picture couldn't avoid the questions. Who is he? Why do I feel this when I look at him? What does this presence mean to me? These questions are seeds, and seeds do not disappear, they germinate. Last night, seeds were planted, and each one of them will begin to bloom in the coming days. That's his power, to provoke growth in others without even realizing it. Not because he speaks, not because he imposes, but because he exists. His existence is already enough to create transformation, even in silence, even in absence. And perhaps you are starting to see that this isn't just about yesterday's reaction. It's about everything that is still to come. Because when life begins to give such clear signs, it means the next move is inevitable. He will be placed before people who will no longer be able to ignore his presence. He will be called to places where his energy will be impossible to deny. And whether he likes it or not, he will have to bear the weight of what he carries. Can you feel the strength of that destiny? If it makes sense so far, right? Yes. The photograph was just a symbol, a reminder that he can no longer be hidden. His image escapes, circulates, reaches places he never imagined, and in every place it creates an impact that cannot be silenced. And when life begins to expose someone like this, it's not by chance, it's preparation. It's an announcement that something greater is approaching, and everyone who reacted yesterday was, in some way, chosen to witness the beginning. The impact of that night didn't end the moment the photo was shown. It continues to reverberate, like an echo that insists on staying. Those who were there realized it was not just an image, it was presence, it was energy. It was a truth that could no longer be denied. He does not imagine how much his existence crosses invisible boundaries. He does not perceive how much he carries in his gaze, the sum of falls, silences, new beginnings. And that is what transforms his image into something impossible to ignore. Yesterday, when they saw his photo, they were not just seeing a face. They were seeing condensed stories, unspoken pains, secret victories. That's why the silence was so heavy. That's why the shock was so palpable. Because deep down, everyone there knew they were facing something extraordinary. And now, they can no longer distance themselves from this call. It carries the kind of mark that awakens in others what had been dormant. And every glance cast at that photo was, in fact, an invitation to see oneself. This is the gift he possesses. Without saying anything, he already provokes transformation. Have you ever felt this in the presence of someone? Have you ever been touched by a presence that doesn't ask for explanation, but demands submission? If so, right here. I know what that's like. What happened yesterday was not just a memory. It was a sign. And signs never come by chance. They prepare. They announce. They pave the way for something that will soon be impossible to contain. This conversation doesn't end here. The next video will reveal what no one has had the courage to say. Click and continue with me.